Hey viewers, welcome to the LifeHack Show, episode number
5.
High five. My name's Greg Sellar, pleased to be here. I've got my special guest co-host today, Mr. Johnnie Cass. We're going to get into what Johnny does, what he's all about, why he's so amazing later. But for now, we're about to go live on Bondi Radio. So thank you for joining us for the next hour or so, and here we go.
Welcome to the LifeHack Show with Greg Sellar.
Broadcasting from the world famous Bondi Beach.
Hi guys, welcome to the LifeHack Show with Greg Sellar, episode number 5. We are here today down on the glorious Bondi Beach on a 36 degree Celsius. For our US listeners, that means it's bloody hot. And we're bringing to you the LifeHack Show. This is our weekly mashup of all things designed to hack the status quo. We're trying to change the frame on the way that you see things. Not doing it gently, but we're going to do it by ripping into our thinking, our behaviors, with the sole purpose of getting some better outcomes in life. And as always, speaking of an amazing outcome, we have, for our special guest co-host today, Mr. Johnnie Cass.
Wow, thanks Greg, great to be here.
Yeah, so
the crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. We're going to give you a little bit of a background to who Johnny is and what he does, but suffice to say that what he is a man who is trying to empower people to live their ultimate life. True or false?
I'll give that a true, thank you.
Give it a true. He does that by way of his amazing live experiences, Life by Design, and he's also the creator of the 28-day program called
28 Ways in 28 Days to a More Confident You.
And we can all do with that.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about Johnny's program and where you can find him later on. But today what we're actually talking about is failure. And I thought, yeah, between us...
What better person to bring to the room than talk about failure than me? I love it.
Well, you're in good company with me. We're gonna have a think now, so that I don't put it on you later on.
Yeah.
Have a think now about what your biggest failures be.
Oh, my
You don't have to
goodness.
tell us now. I don't know how hard or easy it would come, but mine came really easily.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with the question when we talk about failure. The subtext to this is, I saw a great line that said, look, with failure, our ultimate aim is to try not to scar on the first cut. And I thought that was great because it kind of said to me, look, it's going to happen. People are going to fail. You're going to get cut up about stuff. But you got two choices. You either accept it and learn from it, or you don't and you go into a hole, maybe throw in the towel. So I wanted to start by asking you the question, Mr. Cass.
Yes.
Are we too quick when it comes to failure to throw in the towel?
Wow. Are we too quick when it comes to failure to throw in the towel? I think, generally speaking, for most people, the answer is yes. And I think therein lies the problem, is that when we experience failure, like you said, and that first cut is the deepest, because every time we experience failure, we then remember that first cut and then add more and more onto it. So I think, generally speaking, yes, people throw in that they experience failure, then they don't want to experience more of that failure, and so then they stop taking risks and avoid experiencing failure.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting when you say at the end there, we stop taking risks, because we're trying to, in a way, protect ourselves from failure. You know, we either convince ourselves that it's just not worth it, or we give up. Why is that?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. So fundamentally, you've got this, you and I, everyone who's watching this, we've got this beautiful thing called our brain. But our brain is fundamentally lazy.
Yeah.
So our brain really likes familiar pattern, it likes certainty, and its highest job is to ultimately keep you safe, right? So the minute that you go and do something that's uncomfortable, you don't want to experience that failure. Your brain goes back and remembers every time in the past where you've had that cut, as you said earlier, or every time in the past where you've failed, and you're about to go and take that risk, and you see a hot guy or a hot girl at a bar, and you want to go and ask her on a date, but you remember every other time that you got rejected rejection. And so your brain says, uh-oh, let's not do that because we don't want to experience that failure again.
Yeah, I think rejection's a big thing. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Jia Zhang.
No, but I'm loving that. Jia Zhang.
Jia Zhang.
Wow, if I had a dog, I think I'd call him Jia Zhang. Tell me about Jia Zhang.
Jia Zhang wrote the book. It's called Rejection Proof.
Right.
And I think there's a guy in Canada. His name's Brad Blanton, who has like a rejection therapy.
Yes.
30-day challenge, and he thought, nah, screw that. He's like, I'm going to do 100 days
yes.
where I actually say, or I try and get people to tell me no. So like, let's say on day one, what he did was he walked into an airport and he's like, can I have $20?
Yes.
It might have been 100. Because it had to be a guaranteed no. Because the thought process was, if I go 100 days with people telling me no, then by the end of it, or even by halfway through it, or sooner, I'll get to the idea that failure is not fatal to me.
Yes, yes.
And therefore, I will be okay with it. I'll be better at asking or getting over rejection. And of course, the person was like, no. And then he was like, yep, that's fine. Okay, cool. And he walked out of the airport.
Imagine if they said yes. How great would that?
Well, what's interesting is they went, no. Well, what do you want it for?
Yes.
And he said, like, okay, $100 might have been a lot, but maybe I could have got 20 out of him had I kept pushing, or had I had a good enough reason. So I think sometimes our fortune telling favors nobody, least of all ourselves, because we think we know the answer, when in actual fact, sometimes we might get a yes. You know, by day 2, he walked into Burger King and said, look, can I have a burger refill? And they're like, what the hell's a burger refill?
Yeah, yes. I actually remember seeing this TED Talk now that you remind me.
Yeah.
Actually. It was phenomenal. It was a great TED Talk.
Yeah, and he's like, a burger refill? And he's like, yeah, it's like a drink refill, but for a burger.
Yeah.
They said no. But day 3, he went and he asked for the Olympic rings in Krispy Kreme donuts.
That's right,
yes.
yes.
That was the video that went viral for him. He had 5 million YouTube likes. And now he's made a whole career out of doing TED Talks, doing different talks on rejection therapy or being rejection proof and getting over that. My question to you would be, how much do you think people stop their possibilities? You know, if we talk about your life by design, how much do they not get to that point where they're living a life by design because they just don't try or don't have a go because they stop themselves?
Yeah, awesome question. And, you know, it's a great question. And I think if we just for a minute, look, I don't want to get into too many statistics, but the World Health Organization currently says that there are like 300 million people depressed around the planet, right? That's a lot of people. And you've got to ask yourself, why might these people be depressed? And I think one of the main reasons is because to some degree we've kind of given up. To some degree, we've sort of settled for a life of mediocrity. In fact, I was just running an event on the weekend and I got some people to go through and look at the different areas in their lives. And for most people, we sit in that place of like, yeah, I'm kind of okay. Like my life is a 5, it's a 6, it's a 7. And so sometimes you go that little extra mile, takes that little bit of extra effort that I think a lot of us just don't really want to go there because it does require that bit of effort. But that in truth is where the rewards lie. And also that little bit of extra effort means dealing with rejection, embarrassment, humiliation, failure, not only financially but emotionally and a whole bunch of things. And that takes energy and that takes a lot of time. And you know, we get easily distracted, pretty shiny little objects, walking down a shopping mall. I can go and challenge myself, or I can just stay in this job that I'm not happy with and go and spend money on the weekend and convince myself that my life is pretty okay.
And did you?
No. I'm
You
always.
didn't buy anything?
I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy anything at all.
But you have.
I have definitely have many times. I've run many avoidance strategies from preventing myself from doing the things I know I really need to do, but doing those safe things instead.
Yeah, and so we tend to get this sense of like overriding the possibilities for what we can achieve because we think the possible consequences of any type of failure might stop us from getting there. And I think that is really something that are we trying to be amazing or are we trying to do amazing things? Like, they're two different questions. I know in previous shows what we've done is we've spoken about mindset with Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
And that idea between a fixed and a growth mindset. Now, when it comes to failure, if you're in the fixed mindset, you're really going to see failure as a massive, massive setback.
Sure.
But if you're in the growth mindset, you're going to see it as something that is a potential challenge for the future. Which brings me back to the idea of, what are we trying to be?
Yes.
Are we trying to be so perfect at everything?
Yes.
And limit or eliminate failure from our lives to such an extent that we just don't do anything?
Yeah, I actually really just love that distinction that you just made a minute ago about the difference between are we being this fabulous person or are we doing these fabulous things? And it's such a great concept, because sometimes I think that we don't consider ourselves to be so amazing and so gifted and talented. Like, who I am as an individual is not enough.
Yep.
So therefore I need to go and do things to compensate for my not enough-ness. And if you stop and think about it, the whole world in many ways is geared up to make us not feel like we're enough. We live in a capitalistic environment, not that there's anything wrong with that. We live in a consumeristic world, not that there's anything wrong with that. But we're always striving for that next thing, and that is also human nature, to be looking for more, to be looking for more. But if we're looking for more from that perspective of internal, that the world inside of us, that we're empty and we need something to fulfill us, then it doesn't matter what we do, but we're always going to feel like a failure. I've now got the Porsche, but I'm still feeling like a failure because the neighbor next door has got 2 Porsches. Or I've got the Porsche, but I haven't got the promotion yet. So it's that constant balance of, I don't even like that word balance, it's that constant feeling of how do we keep striving for more, but still realize that, we're whole and complete at the same time.
So when we talk about, the mindset and how it relates to failure,
yeah,
it starts really early on, right?
Oh my God.
Like, back to your childhood.
Right, I know. Hey, we're going to have a live therapy session right here. But it is actually right back in your childhood. Like, if you think about it, like, what's the beautiful thing about when we see a child? What are they? They're innocent.
Yeah.
There's nothing. They're just. Well, maybe not you, right?
Depends, within reason. Depends on the child.
Within reason, right?
How old they are, yeah.
But they're innocent. They're open. They're curious. There's nothing there, and then the world comes along and people come along and we project our stuff onto that child and suddenly make that child feel potentially over a period of time inadequate, or feel like they need to strive and be the best. And again, striving is a great thing, but are you striving out of inspiration, what inspires you, or are you striving out of desperation because you're trying to prove something from your childhood where somebody said you're not good enough and you're still working on that issue back there?
Well, it's twofold. You can either be told that you're not good enough, or you can be fed the idea that you are so great that when something that is a little challenging comes along, you just literally crumble.
Yeah.
And I think as
that's called entitlement, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
but also there's that thing in modern parenting which I kind of don't get, and it needs to be different. The focus and the shift needs to change. And I'm going to preface all this before anyone comes back and says, "Well, you don't have children." No, I don't have children. So these are just my thoughts.
Sure.
But there's that idea of like, oh, he's so special, he's so gifted, or she's so talented. Or, you're just so awesome, aren't you? You're so funny and bright. When you hear that enough as a kid versus, do you know what I really loved is you put in so much effort.
Yeah.
You really stepped up to the plate, because that was a big challenge. It's linguistics. It's changing the idea that you are giving your child some form of positive encouragement, but one is over their innate talent or their gift,
yes,
which we know doesn't exist,
no,
versus how much effort you put in that is later going to allow them to be set up for the idea that when the challenges do come, they know the result is going to come about from any effort that they put in.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there again. And to be really honest with you, sometimes I've struggled with some of the things you've talked about here. So, you know what, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're really saying is we need to fall in love with the process again. We need to fall in love with the doing and the getting up every day and the rehearsal and the practicing and the practicing. And I think also, unfortunately now, we live in a world of social media, and we live in a world of instant gratification. And so we always see the finished product, but you never see the blood, the sweat, the tears to get there. And we just, you know, I think you're definitely right. We're buying into that whole entitlement thing a little bit. We're buying into that whole thing that you're special. And the truth is, we are special, but we're actually not. But you're not either. Just accept that.
Well, yeah, and it's one of the big things that will stop people because, and I know I had this when I came back from London. I had no network. I had no real friends, you know, I've been away for 17 years, and I just thought to myself, yeah, but you don't understand what's going on for me.
Yes.
You don't understand. I don't have a network. I don't know. And everything.
I'm special. My problems are special.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everything was a but. As people were trying to help me because they knew, particularly mentors that had seen the same scenario time and time again. They've heard my story a million times over. There was nothing special about it. I'm trying to convince them that my set of circumstances were unique, and they just weren't.
Yes. And actually what you were really trying to do was also convince yourself that your set of circumstances were unique, because as lazy as our brain is, it's also really kind of clever. So maybe at that point in time you weren't too sure of what your next steps were, you weren't sure of what to do next, or you did know but you didn't have the context, whatever. So all of a sudden your brain goes into creating this story of, yeah, but you don't know my circumstances, which prevents you from taking risks and prevents you from taking chances. And I know that I've done that many times as well. Like, I've heard myself going, this is just a story that I'm telling myself right now.
Yeah, my biggest thing was feeling like a con.
Yes.
That would have been at the time, because I was literally shifting gears and shifting industries and moving from what I had done to what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think it was really interesting what you said before about the idea of, you know, we have a history that we should own. You know, it's ours to take with us. And I was trying to forget that history and move into another area. When in actual fact, everything that I had gathered and garnered over that 25 years was going to help me move through that process a lot quicker.
Yes. I just was reading a really great book last week, so from a timing point of view it was really perfect for me, and it talked exactly about that concept, that for most of us what we're trying to do is go out there and create success and create this great life. But for a lot of us, what we're doing is we're running away from the failure of the past. So it's like, okay, I messed up financially, I messed up in a relationship, now let me go and prove that I can make this better. Rather than not even just accepting it, but actually consenting and approving and almost celebrating that fuck up or that mistake, whatever it is, and then you can really, it integrates internally, because the acceptance of it says it kind of happened, I'm okay with it, whereas the consent of it goes, I'm so glad that happened, now look at where I am, and you eventually just integrate it, which was a really great lesson for me, because, and also the really great thing about it, I know I'm going to go a little bit deep, was it was also talking about generational failures that we unconsciously potentially pick up along the way. So your family, for example, might not have had a lot of money, and at an unconscious level what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, in order for me to fit in with my family, I'm going to suffer like the rest of my family. I'm going to be a failure like the rest of my family, because if I become really successful, then I'll potentially be abandoned from my family. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Well.
Right?
Well.
Yes.
I've beat my family up enough over the course of this radio show, so I ain't bringing you into it on this one, trust me.
We love our family. They're the best practicing ground for our personal growth as well.
Exactly. But tying back to the fact, you know, when we talk about family, you know, they are one of the early influences. School's another big one. And when you read Carol's mindset book, which I know we've spoken about in the past on this show, I love the fact that she did, and it was a real case of East meets West in some research. She got some 8 or 9-year-olds, so they were 4th graders, and she gave them a maths test. And some of the questions in the maths test were purposely difficult, designed to test kids. And what she found was that even at the age of 8 and 9, for those who struggled and were in the fixed mindset, they lied over their ability to be able to do it, or the results that they got.
Yeah,
so
right.
she was actually saying, even at that young age of 8 or 9, when we think that, kids aren't formed or don't have the potential for a fixed mindset, they're more willing to lie than to accept that they have performed badly.
Yeah.
So that was in the US, and then you had Jim Stigler. He was a UCLA professor, and he was in Japan.
Yeah.
And they had the total opposite approach. One of the teachers, same age group, 4th grade, 8 or 9 years old, the teacher gave them the task of drawing a cube, and there was a kid who was really struggling, and the teacher got him up the front to come to the blackboard. Now that is the total opposite mentality of what we tend to have in Western civilization, where it's like only the kids who know the answer or potentially will get it right come to the front of the blackboard.
Oh, isn't that great?
Yeah, and so because he was struggling, she asked him to draw the cube, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And she said to the class, "Look, is this how you draw a cube?" And they all kind of shook their head and went, "No." And she said, "Why don't you have another go?"
Yeah.
So he had another go. Didn't do it. "Is this how you draw a cube?" And they all kind of shook their head again. And by this time, you can imagine Jim Stigler sat at the back as a college professor in a 4th grade class, and he's like sweating bucket loads, thinking this kid's going to cry.
Right.
And in actual fact, 3rd time, he drew the cube, and the teacher said, "Is this how you draw a cube, class?" And they all said yes, and they gave him a spontaneous round of applause, and he sat down.
Great.
With a real sense of achievement. And, it highlights the idea that whether it's your parents, whether it's your family, whether it's your early schooling, we are set up in certain ways to almost celebrate our achievement through getting stuff right.
Absolutely.
And if there's this threat that we're not going to get it right, instead of being like the Japanese classroom and just saying, have another go, have another go, have another go until you get it right, and then see what your sense of achievement's like, through effort, we just go, no, don't have time for it, shouldn't be done, let's just cut to the chase, get the right person up, give them a round of applause, aren't they so smart, back to your seat.
Yeah. No, I love, absolutely love what you're saying there. And you've also struck on something quite interesting in regards to that, because not only does the brain kind of want to prevent us from experiencing failure, but then also the body doesn't want us to experience failure either. So again, with failure comes embarrassment, with failure comes shame, comes guilt, comes humiliation, and the ego, especially if we don't feel good about ourselves, what we do is we put up defense mechanisms. So, I'm going to come across as a know-it-all, I'm going to come across as somebody who's perfect, I'm going to come across as somebody who has all the answers. But if you scratch beneath the surface of that person is probably feeling actually quite inadequate, quite insecure, and that's the difference between, I think, confidence and arrogance. When I see somebody who's arrogant, like I know a lot of people go, well, that guy's really arrogant, I dislike him. I see an arrogant person, I actually feel quite sorry for them. I have a sense of compassion for them, because internally, they're just feeling quite inadequate. Whereas when we talk about confidence or self-assuredness, a confident person knows that they're going to mess it up. They know that they're not going to get everything right. They're not expected to get it right. So when they do get it wrong, they go, great, bring on the feedback. And it actually allows us to strive and move forward. And I have definitely had both of those experiences in my life where, looking back, I go, do you know what? I was actually a bit of a douchebag, because deep underneath that, I was quite inadequate and quite insecure, and you're laughing because you can probably remember times I'm being douchebags around you, right?
No, not at all. I was just thinking in my head, I am listening to you, but I'm thinking, we are going to cut to some music, but as soon as we come back, I'm going to ask you exactly what those instances were.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely.
Let's hear all about Johnny's
the dirty
douchebaggery
moments. Yeah, for sure.
When we come back. So let's head to some music. We're coming at you direct from Bondi Beach on this lovely Monday. Don't forget to download the Bondi Radio app, and we will speak to you in just a second.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
All right, I had to remember to turn the microphones down because I didn't turn them down last week. But hey ho, that's another story. So Johnny, you feel all right? You don't have to tell us now. Wait till we come back into the show. This is the kind of take a breath.
I take a breath, relax,
Take
breathe
a breath.
moment. Good.
So you said you've just come back from some workshops that you've been doing around Australia.
Yeah, so I was just in Perth, I was in, where else was I? I was in Melbourne, I was in Brisbane doing some work with a company called The Game Changers, which I'm really enjoying. So we're really helping entrepreneurs go out there and really leverage and scale their businesses because, as you would know, as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you don't have that team around you, right? So,
which is both a blessing and a curse.
Right, I love, absolutely. And so, you know, I'm really big on the mindset without the skill set will leave you upset, and the skill set without the mindset will leave you penniless. And so,
That's so good.
well, it's true. You know, how many times have you gone to like a pump you up rah-rah seminar? You can believe in yourself and push you off the cliff, but you got no idea how to actually jump down the cliff. Or sometimes you go and see a presenter that's got a lot of technical know-how but doesn't engage in the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. So this is a really nice balance of how do we develop mindset and skill set at the same time to help me move forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been good fun.
And so what's coming up next?
So actually, my next gig, believe it or not, is in December. I'm heading off to Zurich for a 3-day leadership training, again, with a group of entrepreneurs. Be bold, be brave, be you.
Good.
The art of authentic leadership.
And so Zurich.
Yeah, well, that's just, you know, I love, you were talking about networks a little bit later on. This is somebody who I was working with many, many years ago, did some coaching with them. They're running a global company. They got me going to Zurich and Singapore next year as well, and Hong Kong. So we're just working out how we're going to start working together. I'm excited.
Man in the band.
Yes, definitely. We like that.
We're lucky to get him.
Lucky to be here. Thank you.
Lucky to be here. Lucky to get him.
Yeah.
Lucky to be here. Lucky to get him. Lucky to be here. Lucky to get him.
It's a love fest.
It's a love fest. So just to give you a bit of background on how Johnny and I actually met, takes us back to the old Bayswater Fitness in King's Cross
Oh
days.
my goodness. I think I had a lot more hair back then.
We all did. We all did. Yeah, I mean, how bizarre. Nothing is the same in that area. Nothing.
No.
Everything's. It's funny with Sydney. Everything's the same and everything's different. It's that real like you can go to places like London or New York.
Yes.
And literally everything can be different between visits.
Yes.
But when you come back here, there's that sense of like the very, very familiar, but also, you know, stuff's changing super, super quick.
Yes.
And we should say hi to our very good friend Zosha.
Zosha, g'day, all the way over in Hong Kong. One of my great inspirations and one of my great mentors back in the Bayswater days.
Really?
Totally.
And that's where it all went wrong for you, people. Did you put your faith in Zosha or Madam Z?
Madam Z. It's all going to go pear-shaped. This is where you end up on radio in Bondi Beach.
Exactly.
On a gorgeous 36-degree day. It's not a bad place to be.
Exactly. We could be in worse places. So things are going well for you.
Yes.
Kicking up.
Yeah, things are going well. I've got quite a few speaking gigs that I'm doing. I've got some one-on-one coaching clients as well. But, you know, the challenge of business, as we were saying a little bit earlier, it's up, it's down, it's sideways. People think business is a straight line, but it's anything but that.
Yeah. But do you enjoy, when you talk about being a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, do you actually enjoy working for yourself or by yourself?
I don't necessarily, if I'm really honest, just because I know my style from, you know, I enjoy this. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy turning around to somebody and getting some feedback and working in a team environment. But I also do enjoy a little bit of time to myself. So I think that for the most part, the situation is pretty good right now because with technology, there's lots of things we can do with Skype. You know, I was doing these events with these guys, like I said, in Brisbane, Perth and Melbourne. So there's a team involvement there. Then I get to go back and have some time to myself.
I think it's good, the dip in and dip out.
Yes.
The bad thing I find is that you work by yourself. So if you're creating anything,
yes,
sometimes it's like, well, I think that's great.
Yes, exactly.
Or I think that's enough.
Yes.
You know, but even getting my other half to read through anything that I've done, you know, they're so busy with what they're doing and they're in their own space or away or traveling or whatever. It kind of gets a bit crazy. So I get the idea that you can feel like you're working totally in your own silo.
Yeah. And then also sometimes I find when I do that, because I have a propensity for the fixed mindset, I've had to really learn the growth mindset. So I sometimes find if I don't have those ideas to turn around to someone, I can get caught up in that fixed mindset, both a positive one and a negative one. Because I think sometimes we can the fixed mindset, but it also can be quite useful sometimes. So, you know, as a speaker and as a presenter, as a coach, if I didn't have that fixed mindset of certain skills that I developed, then I wouldn't have my confidence around that. But it becomes closed if I don't get feedback from somebody else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It's a weird thing that you often speak to what you need to learn the most.
Then I'm screwed.
But it's true.
No,
though,
it's totally
it?
true. It's
like
absolutely true.
Like I know for me, because I found it so passionately interesting.
Yes.
I was like, if it's made such a profound change in me, how can more people not either know about it, or if they had a little bit open to them, how could they not want to know more?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later on, but there was a time then when I didn't want to speak and I didn't want to present anymore. And I took a bit of a break from it, but the thing that changed my mind was exactly what you just said. Like, I've read certain things and I've experienced certain things, and I almost feel like it's my duty and my obligation just to have a conversation and share things with people. Like that book, Mindset, by Carol Dweck. Is that right? Dweck. I always get that wrong.
Yeah.
I'm still getting that wrong. And I'm okay with that. That book made a massive impact in my life, so I'm always happy to pay those things forward. If it just helps somebody, you know, I'm a recovering perfectionist, you know, and being a perfectionist is freaking exhausting. Putting on a facade, trying to be perfect all the time. And I read that book, and when I read that book, my need for perfectionism almost just dissolved immediately. And the beauty of that was that I felt that I became a much better presenter, a much better speaker, and a much better coach, and just my life, and a much better person to be around, actually.
Yeah, it's always disheartening when you hear people who get up and purport to having an amazing life, or being people who speak from the stage and saying, you know, this is how you live an amazing life, this is what you do, these are the 5 steps, here's how much money you can earn, and all of that.
I used to do that.
And then they're basket cases in their real life.
God.
Or just, you know, you talked about being arrogant before, and I'm not going to let you off the hook when we come
back.
Damn it. You know, and you just think you have to actually walk the talk.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise your credibility is zero in this space. And I think sometimes, in particularly speaking for stage, if you don't open yourself up to just being a little bit humble and a little bit human in terms of you have experienced everything potentially that everybody else is going through in the realms of what is normal, then what's the point?
Yeah, look, 100%. And in fact, like I said to you many years ago, even when I was speaking and presenting, I came from that place of, oh, I'm the guru, I'm better than you, I have to have all the answers, I have to come across as being perfect. But the truth is now, when I open my presentations, I pretty much say, look, you know, I'm fucked up, I'm a mess, and I've messed up a lot of things. There's nothing special about me, as you'll find out soon enough. And I'm really happy to then share that with them, because it's also been said that a great person learns from their own mistakes, but a genius learns from somebody else's mistakes. And I'm more than happy to share my mistakes now, whereas in the past, I would have been like, no, I haven't got that wrong. No, that's your thing. Push back, because I didn't want people to see that I was infallible or wrong.
Yeah. Well, speaking of past mistakes and being a total screw up, let's get back to it. We're going to head back in just a second. Let's kill the music. Let's get the jingle.
Pure Class A high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
So, welcome back to Bondi Radio. This is the Life Hack Show with Greg Sellar and my special guest co-host today, Mr. Johnnie Cass. And just before we went to some music, we were talking about failure, about not wanting to scar on the first cut. So we're building up a level of resistance around the failures that we have in life. And I asked Johnnie to keep on hold the areas of his previous douchebaggery, where he said, look, if I look back at some of my past failures, I can admit, you know, there were probably times where I was a bit of a douchebag, but I would like to think that I've learned from those life failures, and the outcome has made him a different person. Wagwan.
Well, there's so many of them. I feel like I'm like, you know, truth or dare.
Choose your top one.
Choose your top
and there
one.
will be no truth or dare because...
You know, I think looking back is where, you know, we all can say that we've had douchebag moments without a doubt, has probably been in personal relationships.
Right.
So obviously, you know, the number of times, looking back in past relationships where I've been with someone and it's like, it's my way or the highway. I know what I'm doing. You can't tell me what I'm doing. Somebody points out one of my blind spots, and because I was probably feeling quite deeply inadequate at that point in time, you know, when men feel their shame, when men feel their shame triggered, we get defensive or we shut down or we push it back on the other person. So
I think you've got every woman out there listening and watching going, no shit, Sherlock.
Right, I know, but that's my point. So whereas now, when I'm in a relationship, it's just a real subtle but powerful distinction. When my partner points out to me and goes, you know what, you're being a bit of a douchebag about that attitude, whatever it might be. You're being secretive or you're not being, whatever it is. Now at least I'll pause and I'll go, okay, if there is an element of truth to this, what is it and how can I improve that? Whereas in the past it would be, no, this is your problem, this is your issue, you're just projecting your stuff. But actually in hindsight, it was actually really my stuff.
Next.
Okay, another one. Well,
no, I mean next for the boys.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
God,
next.
do you want another one?
No.
Yeah.
It's like he's pointing out my
weakness, exactly.
On the highway.
Yeah, and whereas now I'm like, okay, let's work through that together. I accept my responsibility, and it's just made me a much nicer person to be around.
Good.
Yeah.
Lucky for me.
Lucky for both of us.
There we go. All right, so I want to suggest that our fears are actually just based on us having needs in life. So for example, let's say you're fearful over losing your job. It comes from a need of you to be secure in life or to have a good level of finances around you. If you don't speak up in meetings because you fear that you're going to look like an idiot, then you have this need for acceptance. If you were fearful of being alone, so you talked about relationships, and you have a need for connection. What are some of the needs that we have, and why does it give us this level of fear? Like where does the fear actually come from?
Yeah. I personally think that fear is the silent killer. Like if you look at the areas in your life or your business that aren't working, like procrastination is what? A symptom of fear, okay?
Yeah.
So people say, well, I'm a procrastinator. So ask yourself a different question. So what am I really afraid of? I actually start most of my mornings writing down, what am I afraid of? Because the minute that I write, you shine a light on the things that you're afraid of, it has less power over you, which is the irony of it. People are like, I'm afraid of it, so I'm going to turn and run away from it. And the more you turn and run away from it, the more the fear has over you.
All right, so
yeah.
I think that's I'm going to stop you there because I think that's a really useful hint and a tip to do on a daily basis, almost like a little life hack.
Yeah.
And I had never really thought to do that before. So just repeat it one more time. What's that great practice you do in the morning?
So I just take like a couple of minutes first thing in the morning and I write down, I look at my list of things to do,
yeah.
And then I also go, what am I afraid of today? So what are my fears? My fears are I'm not going to make enough money. My fears are I'm going to call that person and they're going to reject me. My fear is I'm not going to be able to create something different today, or I've got to do this blog and I'm not going to be able to distribute it or whatever. So I just write down the fears, then I write down so what?
Yeah.
And I write down what's the worst case scenario, and then I write so what.
Yeah.
And then I move forward.
Yeah, and it's really important that last bit,
That's
the
right.
so what, or the what's the worst case scenario.
Correct.
Because if you don't do that, you're going to anchor yourself into the negative.
That's right.
You know, here's what I'm fearful of, bing, bang, bong.
That's right.
So that last bit is super, super, super important. So I think that's a great little life hack. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Totally ruined your train of
No,
thought.
that's quite right. We were talking about fear,
Yeah.
and you know, what are we're afraid of not looking good. We're afraid of not looking smart. We're afraid of being humiliated. We're afraid of being found out to be a fraud, which is a universal belief that a lot of people have. We're afraid of not appearing to be as good as what people perceive us to be. So these are all the fears that are underneath that people aren't thinking about. And you got to remember, and I know we've heard this like 1,000 times, but fear is a future imagined emotion appearing real. I think it was Jim Rohn that first said that. So Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge.
Yep.
So you and me, we have this really great imagination. So even like coming down and doing this radio show, there might have been a moment of hesitancy for me because this was the unknown. And there's a little part of my brain because it's like, well, what if you get on that radio station and you sound like an idiot? What if you're going to get humiliated? What if you're going to sound like...
And then he went, I'll be sat next to Greg.
Boom.
Boom. And I'll be fine.
Exactly.
No, not that I'll look after you. That you'll look good sitting next to me. He's like,
I'll be fine.
I got this in the bag.
I got this. I'll be totally fine. But we use our imagination in a way that actually stops us from moving forward. In fact, there was a research done. I can't remember the study, but the conclusion found that most of us tend to exaggerate a situation going wrong. So we catastrophize.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's going to go horribly wrong. Not only then do we catastrophize, but we significantly underestimate our ability to bounce back from the failure. So we've just set ourselves up for keeping stuck. And we need to, like, we've faced adversity, we've faced failure, and we're still here. We're not dead. So we just need to bear that in mind as we continue to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I've got this great saying, and nothing up until this point in our life has been fatal to us.
Exactly.
In terms of the failure. So, all right, speaking of the catastrophe scale and you making something out of nothing,
Yeah.
I did promise you that I would ask you what was your biggest failure would you regard that you feel comfortable talking about?
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okay.
So we'll do a you show me yours, you tell me yours.
And then you tell me mine.
Don't show me anything.
No.
You tell me yours and then I'll tell you mine.
All right, great. So I think, without a doubt, the biggest perceived failure for me was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, about 4 years ago. You know, I've been traveling around the world, speaking to literally tens of thousands of people. And then all of a sudden, the company that I was affiliated with went broke. I lost a lot of money as a result of, then there was a snowball effect of that in a very short period of time. I lost a lot of money. Then I couldn't maintain the properties that I had, so I lost some properties. Then my health suffered. And then I got news that my mother was passing away from leukemia as well. So I just felt like I was at the bottom of the lowest of the lowest. And for a long time there, for the first time in my life, I found myself saying, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do next. I don't know where I just had no... And that was really scary for me, for somebody who has always been relatively driven. So that failure was money, health... Oh, and I'd lost another relationship again. Money, health, relationship, and my mum passing away. It just couldn't get any worse.
That's
I remember,
like the whole circle.
Right? And exactly. It all just imploded on me. But it was also one of... Now... 4 years later, I can look back at that as being one of the greatest moments of my life as well.
So, okay, 2 things came out of that. How do you make that transition? And also, what did you draw from that time of being at the lowest ebb and the lowest of the low to actually say, well, it can't get any lower, and here's what I have to do? Like, how did you get into a point of doing something? Because that's the biggest thing, the action.
Totally. And please don't get me wrong, it didn't start straight away.
No.
I had to go through that process. And for me, the foundation has always been some form of exercise, believe it or not. Some getting up in the morning and having a purpose, one purpose, any purpose. And for me at that point in time was 2 key things. Number 1 was to just do some exercise to get me going. And number 2 was to be curious enough to figure out how to get myself out of this situation. So I didn't have much money at that point in time. So the little money I did have, I worked with a coach / therapist. So I knew the importance that I wasn't going to be able to figure out myself. But then listen, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is listen to podcasts and reading books. And after a while, I discovered that I'm not so special, that there have been many other people that have failed significantly before and even more catastrophically before. And at some point in time, I just decided that enough was enough, and I had to get off the pity party, and I had to just start taking a step forward. And in fact, I remember reading that at one point in time, I'm going to paraphrase it, but vision without action will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
So I just started taking some action, and I had enough self-belief back in myself again that if it was the wrong step, at least it was a step. But sitting there waiting for opportunities to come for me, feeling sorry for myself, I know it's so cliched, it wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah, well, it's cliche for a reason. 'Cause
Yeah.
it happens over and over again.
Mm.
And so, looking back, what were the lessons in that time?
Yeah, the lesson was massive, and the lesson surrounds pretty much everything that we've been talking about here, that I'm not perfect. The lesson was to ask for help, because I'm, a bit of an alpha male. I'm the guy who's got all the answers. And the key lesson was actually around imperfection and vulnerability, especially around intimate relationships. So, I said that another relationship broke up at that point in time. And the reason why it broke up was because deep down in my core, even after knowing all this stuff, I still had that need to project perfectionism. And, relationships aren't about being perfect. Relationships are about exposing our vulnerabilities and the things that we've got wrong. And so that was my lesson, to not define myself by the things I did or didn't have, to be okay with being imperfect, and to know that I was a fuck up and that I'm okay as being a fuck up.
Well said.
I said that. You are? Yes.
I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yeah, your turn.
So
I told you mine. Now you're right.
Yeah. I was like, should we just move on?
No.
So I'm somebody who's been what I would consider in my own head fairly lucky. Like, I was always those people amongst friends and maybe some family to always have landed with his bum in the butter. Is that the saying?
I think I know what you mean by that. So you've always
landed on both feet. So
Yeah.
whether it was here, then I took off to the US, and it just was right place at the right time, rode the right waves, had the right people in my network and connections, which I was able to mutually hopefully use, and go okay. And then at a certain point in my life, I thought maybe it's time for me to own a business.
Right. Wow.
Maybe I'll give this a go. So I basically went to a friend who owned a business already, and they had wanted to get into distribution of a product that I actually had attained the rights to for the UK. And I went to them and I said, look, help me, if that's what you want, let's work together. I want this to be mine, effectively, but, let's work together. You've got warehouse space, all that sort of stuff. We can do that. And Penny, her name was. She was so, it was a business decision. She wanted to give me the money to effectively start up the company, and then what I would effectively do is pay her back over time. And I just went into it all shiny and glossy, thinking this would be great. I know people. I love the piece of equipment. This is amazing. And it just wasn't. Not for any other reason than I had no clue in how to run a business properly. Yeah. I just thought it was a case of spend money here,
yes,
but spend way too much money here.
Yes.
In the hope that it will gather more money. It was just a nightmare. So in 1 year, I burnt through £100,000 of her money.
Ouch! Of her money.
Okay,
well, it was good as her money.
Well, it wasn't so good because I had to. Now, here's the thing. As I just watched it going down and down and down, because the market conditions around about that time, it was the GFC, all the health clubs were closing in on their spending budgets. It was a great piece of kit. It was widely known to be a great piece of kit, but it required a floor space. Yeah. And so getting an edge into health clubs to free up any of their floor space to put something in.
Forget it.
It was tough. It was a tough gig. And I thought, you know what, Penny's got systems.
Yeah.
She's got systems in place. She's got a team around her. She's already looking and handling all the distribution for this. Why don't I talk to Penny and see if she wants to pick up the mantle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff had been done. It wasn't a total loss over that year.
Yeah.
Let's see if she wants to do it. Now, she turned around and said, yes, you know, this would be something we can do. But morally,
yes,
and also for our relationship, I just thought, I've got to pay you back this money. So
Yeah,
I had
right.
to work
Wow.
2 days a week for 5 years
Wow.
for no money to support that company.
Wow, that's tough, right?
Yeah, so
Getting up every day, going there, knowing that you were paying back a debt to somebody else.
yeah, so 3 days, I had a 3-day-a-week contract.
Yeah.
So I was working.
Yes.
And it was a good contract. It was working for a company based in London. So the contract effectively gave me a great wage.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But
You're
it could have been so much better, and that was a whole 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, headspace-wise, in that time, I just jumped to, you are so effing useless.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that.
And I also was like, the pressure at the time over the finances and what it does to your relationship. Because I'm like, not only have I done this to me,
Correct.
but I've done this to us.
That's right.
You know, I've put us in a really financially precarious position.
Yeah.
And we were just lucky that Penny was so wanting to pick up the mantle with that company, and very, very accommodating in the way that was done. So we had to have an existing agreement, but you know, could I have run away and just filed for bankruptcy and all that? I wouldn't even know how to do that. But from a pride sense of things, and also a moral obligation, I would never do that to somebody.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I'm going to work 2 days a week for 5 years to pay you back this money.
Yeah, that's.
So that was a bit of a life lesson. What's the lesson? What's
Yeah, I was
the
going to
moral?
say. I was going to say. What have you taken away from that?
Never own a business.
Ah, well,
My whole thing.
well, maybe not for you. No, right?
No, for me, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
For me, never own a business. I will always be me at myname.com. I
Yeah.
will always be working for myself, and I will work with
Yes.
anybody.
Yeah.
It's unlikely I will work for anybody again.
Yes.
And I certainly don't want it under the banner of business where I have a responsibility to 20 other people to make stuff happen, to
Yeah.
pay the bills, to keep the lights on, to ensure payroll. So if you're out there and you run a business,
Yeah, totally.
hats off to you.
100%. I'm a little bit the same, actually. Like, you know, there's myself, but I collaborate with a lot of other people. I mean, I do have an e-commerce business, and we have business partners there, and I know those struggles that you're talking about there, and it's really tough. Like, I give my hat off to anyone who is running a business. Exactly like you said, we get this entrepreneurial spark. Exactly, but then after that, it's just a whole different tenacity, perseverance, living in constant anxiety, and living in.
It was the anxiety. It was a year of just torturous mental state.
Yeah, and some people get stuck in that and never ever come out the other side.
Yeah. So we're going to head back into our second piece of music before we come back for segment number 3. We are live on Bondi Radio. This is the LifeHack Show, and we will be back in just a second.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. This is Bondi Radio.
My goodness, what a gorgeous day it is down here.
It's so nice down here, and it's really weird over lunchtime. It tends to like fill up. Did you notice that when we got here? It was,
And now it's just boom.
and it makes me think like it's Monday.
I know.
It's not close to the holidays season.
I know.
It's not school holidays, and this place is
It's packed.
rammed.
I thought the same thing when I came here. I was like, and it wasn't, but now it's even crazier, busier.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Where are they all coming
Come
from?
from?
What do they do? In a lot of ways, I think it's amazing. I think it's great.
Yeah,
but this
totally.
could be a weekend for the amount of people on the beach and for the amount of people that are around here.
I mean, it is a Monday, so you probably got like a lot of hospitality people around, but far out, it's just fabulous.
36 degrees.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's meant to get up to 36 degrees today. and then I think we get some rain later on. But for those of you, especially those guys who eventually watch this in the UK, hello to all our UK friends. Every time I mentioned to a friend the other night over FaceTime that we actually had like a serious 10-week period here in Sydney with no rain. We had like 0.2 millimeters of rain, and then in one night we got 20 mil.
Smashed,
we got completely smashed. But to go like 10 weeks with virtually no rain was just unheard of for me, anyway.
No, I don't think global warming is going to be good for this country. Like, we're not even in December yet, and it's 36 degrees. Like, that's hot.
That's hot. Yeah, it does drop. It does drop tomorrow, but I do feel. No, I don't feel sorry for them. That's the wrong.
In the UK?
No. Like here, because like I literally live just over the back of there. So in my head, on a day like this, I can do a bit of work and just quickly jump down. But when your whole day is a day out to try and find water,
forget it.
And that was one of the things that was like, if we come back to Sydney, where do you live? Yeah. And it was like, we have to be by water. Because if it starts getting compared to London in any way, for as great as Sydney is, in terms of, and you spent enough time in London, in terms of the rawness, the energy, the big city feel,
it's not there.
It had to be by water, so it was almost incomparable.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. The beauty of Sydney is definitely the water and nature and the outdoor lifestyle, and
it could do with a bit more like.
We've had this conversation. A little bit. Give me a little bit of something. I was just in Melbourne, like I love Melbourne because it's got a little bit of that. I was in my hotel room and there was an outdoor bar and it was cranking, and I'm like, Sydney just needs more of that.
I think it's happening.
I hope so. I think this summer it happens. It's that damn casino, man. Like, I was down there the other night. Everyone's down there now. They've filtered everyone down to the casino area.
As in the Star?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I read was that they're just about to put their proposal in for the 5-star Ritz-Carlton on top of the Star.
Right.
So they'll have the Ritz-Carlton Tower there with the bars.
It's all going to be there.
With that. Well, then you've got Barangaroo, which will pretty much be the same thing. That'll be massive in there. By the time the what are we calling it? Not the tram, the light rail.
The light rail.
Wynyard gets done. They redo Circular Quay. There's like 28 buildings being demolished in Sydney at the moment.
Really?
I mean, it's a train wreck if you ever come and visit at this time.
It's crazy.
But you've got to think that in a couple of years' time, the place will be looking amazing. Yeah.
And we're also expecting massive amounts of population as well. But in my mind, it'll never quite be a New York or a London.
It can't be.
No.
It would take 100 years for Sydney to be either of those two places.
Yeah.
I think they're the two. New York and London are probably the two greatest. Barcelona, I know a lot of people talk about that. A lot of people will also talk about Paris. But I think London and New York, there's something about like the
grittiness.
And the intensity of having that many people in one place. And also the idea, like Paris has kind of always been nice.
Yes.
So the idea that when something's raw and crap and turns itself into funky, new out of that, like the meatpacking district, East London.
Agreed. There's something to that.
Yeah. I want it.
Yeah.
You're a politician here in
Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
I mean, my friend, I think I shared this with you. I can't remember. My friend once described Sydney quite nicely, and no offense to anybody out there. He said, to our listeners out there, I didn't say this, I'm not quoting it. Sydney reminds him of a pretty blonde woman. It's great to look at on the surface, but there's not necessarily much underneath. Now, I didn't say that. My friend said that, all right?
All the blondes out there.
Yeah, oh my God. That's not true, right? It's a sweeping generalization. I get it. But there's an element of truth to that. Like, once you've seen the Harbour Bridge and the harbour and you've eaten at a couple of nice restaurants, okay, so where's the soul and the depth of the city? Where are the crazies? Where are the misfits?
Exactly. I got a friend, Brian, who had never been out to Australia prior to us moving back 3 years ago, and every year he's come out since. And so he's coming back for his third trip for his 50th in Feb. Hey, Brian. And you kind of go, now thankfully he's the opposite end of the scale. He's not really looking for the misfits, who likes the occasional night out, but he's quite happy just to like mooch around, relax, spend time doing the stuff that he would never do in London. But, it's a struggle to think, well, what didn't we do the last 2 times you were here?
I hear.
And I looked up what were the top 20 things to do in Sydney a couple of weeks back, and I put a Facebook post.
Did I see you post that on
Facebook?
Yeah,
I put it, and it got such flack. All my friends were like, oh my God, how could you be bored living in Sydney, when you've got this and this and this to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's very person dependent.
It's great if you got kids, right?
Yes. If you surf, I think it's okay. If you...
And you love a barbecue? I love a beer? I mean, are we being cliched right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you love all that sort of stuff, it's great. But if you don't, I don't know. I don't. Everyone's like, you live in Bondi, you must surf. Then I'm like, nope. Don't do it.
But I like the water.
Yeah. Having said that, I only went in 3 times last year into the beach surf.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a member at Icebergs over there. So
swim in the pool.
I swim in the pool. Yeah. So I train, come out, swim in the pool, and that's me done.
Nice.
All right. Enough chit chat. We're coming back for our final segment. It's going to be a short one. We're going to look. Johnny's got his book that I've asked him to bring in. Here we go.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.
All right, so we're heading into our third and final segment of the Lifehack Show with Greg Sellar. I've got my special guest co-host. I can never get my tongue around that.
Yeah.
Guest co-host, Mr. Johnnie Cass, here today, and we are talking about failure or not scarring on the first cut. So I'm going to start with this saying, and then I'll ask for your comment. It says that chaos breeds life when order breeds habits. And I think the idea behind it is that, like anything, that sense of challenging ourselves through failure is almost like a muscle in your body. Like, it needs to get worked out every now and then in order for us to build up some resilience so that when we do get the knockbacks, we don't scar on the first cut.
Yeah.
Chaos breeds life when order breeds habits.
Yeah.
What do you say to the idea that, we do need a bit of struggle in our life?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think this sort of piggybacks on some of the conversation we were having a little bit earlier. Like, a lot of the way that we act as adults, believe it or not, stems from our childhood. And if you support a child too much, then they'll become soft and weak, and they won't be able to deal with the setbacks of life. Like, you see... I
think Carol calls them arrogant, defensive, non-learners.
Perfect.
How's that for a summary?
I'll go with that one.
Arrogant, defensive, non-learners. And that's what you're basically setting your kids up to be if you keep pampering them around, being so special.
Yeah, around anything. Like, I've got my godchildren, and when I was watching them grow, like, even when they were learning to crawl or just reach over the sofa, you want them just to reach as far as they can and then give them that little helping hand, and not too soon. But then the inverse is the same as well. If you are too mean and you're not supporting and you're constantly challenging someone, then that can also become quite defeating as well, and they're never going to feel they're going to get ahead. So I 100% agree with you. Like, a perfect relationship, a business relationship, or a perfect life relationship as well is one that sits on the border of nice, kind, supportive, and challenging, and mean, and cruel, and it's got to sit in that balance there. Because if you have too much, like any relationship, if you have too much kindness, it's like boring. But if you're too mean and all of that, and too challenging, then you also get defeated as well.
Yeah, great. So we got to, don't think that failure is the opposite to success, because success is almost like, failure is almost a part of success.
Yes. 100%. And many years ago, I remember reading a section of a great poem from Rudyard Kipling. And I love the quote. He says, treat triumph and disaster for the two imposters that they are.
Yeah.
Treat triumph and disaster for the two imposters that they are. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, well, what the fuck does that actually mean, right? And if you think about it, we've become addicted to the triumph. And when we succeed, we're successful, I'm successful. But then we resist the failure. When we fail, I'm a failure. The truth is you're neither of those things. Success and failure are fleeting. They will come and go, but you will always be here. So separate. If we learn to separate ourselves from our successes and our failures and just go, well, I'm here, every day is a gift, then I think that's a different place to come from, as much as we possibly can do.
Perfect. All right, so as we cap off this episode of the Life Hack Show, as always, I ask my guest co-hosts. I've got to change that.
Guest co-host.
I got to just start saying I'm gonna. I'll get the other person.
Yeah, the other person sitting over here.
I'll get this one.
This one
to bring in a book.
Yeah.
Something that's really rocked their world, changed their life, put them on a new way of thinking or a different method of behavior, and that book is.
Ding, ding, ding. This one here, the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Is that right? Cardone. Grant Cardone.
Yeah, you better
get it right. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And look, I've read a lot of great books, so I could have bought in a lot of them. But I think this one was, for me, just the timing right now where I'm at. And I think it's quite perfect in regards to failure, because sometimes when we fail, what we do is we then understandably try and take incremental steps to move forward. And what this book says is screw those incremental steps and just really massively go for it. Yeah, like really take the risks again, really 10x your goals. And in fact, part of the reason why we lose our motivation is because your goals aren't big enough. And I really love this, because I guess it just got me out of, okay, well, let's just get another customer, or let's just go, no, screw that. What do I need to do to get a TV show? What do I need to do to make $2 million rather than a couple of $100,000 extra in money? Yeah. And it just blew my mind and allowed me to be inspired and to dream and think and be big again.
Speaking of TV,
yes,
weren't you on it?
I was on television. That was circa 2001.
I missed this whole boat.
Yeah, luckily.
So I left the country in 1998. And,
yeah.
I remember Zosha saying to me, like, oh, Johnny's on...
It was Big Brother, which was...
Was it Series 1?
It was Series 1. So I think this is my way of making up for crappy reality TV that we have to suffer now.
And like anything, Series 1 of any series is always the biggest.
Always the best.
There's always the hype. There's always the biggest. People are, hooked into it. And so do you still get recognised for it?
I do get recognised for it. People go, aren't you that guy there? But that show for me was a massive learning experience. I didn't really talk about it here, but it was also the thing that set me onto this path as well.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of expectations of myself coming off of that show. And you talk about what was one of my other big failures. It would have been that show in hindsight, because yes, I was able to leverage off of certain opportunities, but I felt like there were some really great opportunities I also missed out on. Like I really wanted a talk show back then.
Yeah.
I really wanted to leverage a career in media, and it didn't happen. It left me with a profound sense of I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And so then it got me onto the path of, what does it take to be successful? What is this thing called success? Why is it that some people create this great life? And then as I just went and learned, I then decided that I wanted to go and share the things that I learnt with other people as well. So out of that failure has come something really great, which is to be sitting here in this room with you, sharing wisdom with your listeners.
And on that note, we're going to cut it there. So listen, thank you very much, so much for joining us today. For the Life Hack Show. And just if people want to find more about Johnnie Cass, if they want to go to your website, if they want to contact you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can just get me on my website, johnniecass.com. So that's JOHNNIECASS.com. And you can get me on Facebook as well. If you've got any questions about anything that we've talked about, feel free to message me. I'm there. I'm available. So is my team.
So if you want 28 days to a more confident you, if you want to be bold, you want to be brave, you want to be authentic, you want to live your life by design, this is the man to see, Mr. Johnnie Cass. From me, as always, www.gregsellar.com, and you can find me, Greg Sellar, on all the social media handles. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much to you, first of all. I said that already, but you can never say it too many times. And thank you to our viewers on any of the social media platforms where you are watching. Thank you also to the listeners on Bondi Radio. Don't forget, download the Bondi Radio app. If you don't have it, have a listen to some of our other Thought Leader Radio and the other shows that are going on here. But from us to you for another week until next Monday. We're going out on Monday again next week. It is goodbye from us.
Thanks, guys.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. Bondi Radio.